Good morning, YouTube. This is Boxingwave. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Smash the like button if you like the content and share the video on your social media platforms. This is the morning after the big news. Jamel Charlo against Canelo Alvarez going down September 30th, Las Vegas. Canelo will be defending his undisputed crown at 168. Charlo, who is currently undisputed at 154, is going to be moving up two weight division. He's going to skip 160, and he's going to face Canelo at 168. It's no catch weight. I read an article this morning by Dan Raphael. Shout out to him. He basically went into detail about this fight. We thought it was going to be Jamel Charlo. That was the rumors in the last couple of weeks. And it's going to be Jamel, the smaller Charlo. Okay? I made a video yesterday. It was a reaction video I had just found out. It's very long. It didn't need to be that long. I apologize. It's just that I'm like, I don't know if you guys can tell, but as I'm talking, I'm thinking about how I feel about the fight. Because I just kind of found out, uploaded, booted up the computer, and just started talking. Because I wasn't even, it was a lot of pausing. I actually rewatched it myself. I'll re-listen to it while I was like in here doing stuff. And to be honest, I read the comments. They're all over the place. Like, there's a lot of mixed feelings for certain fights. But I think most people, they're not even sure how they feel about it. Some people are excited for it. Okay? Some people hate it. All right? Some people are just there to defend Canelo. And there's some people that's just there to hate on Canelo. Some people really wanted the Tim Tszyu fight with Charlo. They feel it's a duck. They feel even fighting Canelo is a duck. Some people feel that Canelo is ducking whoever else is in the division. They even say Charlo. They say Andre. They say Benavidez. Benavidez is the name that's popping up the most. It's all over the place. All right. I read all of the comments, to be honest. And then there's some people that just liked the video and they were like how I felt, like they were just confused. It's all over the place. Listen, I didn't make a video about Jamel Charlo. Let's just start there. Let's start with Jamel Charlo because I never made a video talking about that and how I felt about that. I honestly felt like when I heard this 3-fight deal, when I heard it was going to be Jamel first, I didn't have a problem with it. The problem I had nothing to do with Canelo. It had to do with Jamel. Jamal's coming off of 2 years. He's going through, divorce and issues at home. He's done interviews. He's clearly going through some things, personal things. I just don't know if he would have been at his best fight facing on Canelo. But what I was going to tell you and what I would have told you is if the opportunity is there, he may not ever get the opportunity again to face Canelo. Jump on it. I know he might not be at his strongest, but maybe this fight would be the thing that would motivate him to get back in the gym and get focused on boxing and get away from the outside noise. This is what I would have told you if I did a video on it back then. But that's my views. I didn't have a problem with it. I wanted Benavidez, and let me make this clear, and I'm going to keep repeating it. I want Benavidez, okay? Just because I want that fight doesn't mean I'm a Canelo hater. I want it as a fan. I want to see that fight. I feel like that is the best challenge to Canelo, and I've been saying this since Canelo moved to 168. That would be the best fight. I know that Benavidez wasn't the most proven. It doesn't matter to me. I think Morrell is not that proven, but I still think Morrell has a chance of beating Canelo and Benavidez. I don't know. I could be wrong. We would have to watch the fight and see. Obviously, resume-wise, Morrell has the weakest. Benavidez has a solid resume, but not everybody that has great resumes fight Canelo Alvarez. You know what I mean? But that's what I wanted. But that's my stance on Jermall. Now, yesterday we heard it was Jamel. Jamel, and I've said this too years ago. Jamel was the better Charlo to me. All right. At 154, Jermall was the better Charlo to me. When Jamel got with Derrick James, he started to improve. He's gone to be better than Jamal, in my opinion. All right. I still believe, and this is my views and my views only, I still believe that Jamal fights on his level of opposition. The best two wins he has is in his career: J-Rock at 154, Deverenchenko at 160. Those were his top two best performances in his career, in my opinion. And it took those two guys for him to level up. When I look at the Montiel fight, when I look at Brandon Adams fight, I say like Jermall looks all right. But when he fought Deverenchenko, he looked phenomenal to me. You know what I mean? He looked to be at his best. He looked sharper. He looked quicker. Not making any excuses. I'm just telling you how I feel, like what I see when I look at the fight. All right? Because I recently just watched it last week. I was going through his fights when I'm thinking that it's going to be Canelo he's going to be facing. But Jermall right now is not at his best, and Jamel is at his best. Jamel is actually coming off his best performance to date against Brian Castano in the rematch. His best. That is the best Charlo, the most complete Charlo. Complete. The thing I've been saying about Jamel is that Jamel needs to find a way to bridge the gap between his old style and his new one. You know, the old Charlo that used to just work behind the jab and work with counters behind the counter and move laterally a lot. I felt like once he got with Derrick James and he started picking up the KOs, he started to fall a little too much in love with the power. And we saw that in the Tony Harrison fight. But I felt like in a Castano rematch, I felt like he stayed this as the first fight that even in the Harrison rematch fight, I didn't even feel like he was sticking to what he needed to do. It worked for him because he was able to hurt Harrison and get him out of there. But the Castano fight was the first fight that I felt that was his most disciplined fight. You know what I mean? And he managed to bridge that gap in between the two styles that he can use. You know, he fought smart like the old Charlo, but he fought aggressive. He picked the spots to jump in and throw those combinations with the heavy hands of his. You know what I mean? So he's coming off of his best win. The problem is he's coming off of over a year layoff, and he's coming off of an injury. Whether you want to believe it, I read the comments. Whether you want to believe it or not, he's coming off of his injury. Now, I thought about it after I made the video, chilled. I watched a little bit of Canelo last night. I was watching a little bit of the Triple G trilogy, the third fight. I was watching a little bit of the Danny Jacobs fight. You know, I was watching a little bit of Bivol. I'm just looking and seeing what Jamel can do in order to make this fight competitive, since he's the one that's moving up. And I went back and watched a little bit of the Castano fight and saw exactly what I felt like would be advantages for Jamel going into this fight, because the fight is real now. So I made a video yesterday saying I didn't like the fight, probably mainly because of the shock of it all. There's fights that I want for Canelo. There's fights that I want for Charlo, Tim Tszyu. I've never been a fan of the 2 weight division jump, but this is the best one that we've gotten over the last few years. You know what I mean? I really didn't like Mikey versus Spence. I really didn't like Kell Brook against Triple G. But Jamel is way more accomplished than those two. He is undisputed. He's already cleared. Even if you want to see Tim Tszyu and you think Tim Tszyu could beat him, that's fine. But he already cleared out his division. He's been fighting there for years. And he has a long, long resume. You know what I'm saying? Tim Tszyu looks fire right now. But Charlo has been there, taking losses, picking belts back up. All these other guys in the division, they either move up and took their L's. You know what I mean? He's the last man standing out of everybody at 154 that's been there at 154. When 154 was really like all these guys were undefeated. Charlo, the other Charlo, Andrade, you know what I mean? All those guys, J-Rock, Vanes Monterosa, Aries Lanny, Lara, Canelo Alvarez moved up. All these guys, James Kirkland, all those guys. Charlo, Jamel is the last one standing. So what I believe happened here is there's a 3-fight deal. I don't know. I'm just assuming, all right? So I don't know. I don't have anyone on the inside. I don't know. I'm just assuming based on how Al works. They presented this deal to Canelo like, listen, we want you in a 3-fight deal. These are the options based on who, you know, we want these 3 fighters to get a shot at you for this $100 million or whatever it's going to be. What I think happened is Jermall was supposed to be the first fight. I already went over that. Didn't have a problem with it if he's going to be over in PBC and giving us something that we want. We've heard that Errol is going to be at the end of that deal. I felt like Errol was going to be an option at the end of the deal simply if he goes through his fights with Bud Crawford. Let's say he wins fight 1. They do their rematch. And then he wins fight 2. He moves up to fight Canelo. That seemed to be very realistic. You know what I'm saying? Errol is their guy. Of course, they're going to prioritize the guy that's been there. And Errol really wanted the fight. So I believe that was part of the package. Jermall was going to be his first fight. All right. But Jermall, for obvious reasons, really not in the game right now. Needs to get things rolling. I think he needs a tune-up. As much as I wanted the Canelo fight, I've been wanting that for years. If he doesn't feel like he's ready for the fight, which he isn't, then, you know, it is what it is. Pass it off to the brother that is ready for the fight. The middle fight, the second fight is tricky. Even the third fight is tricky because if Errol loses to Bud Crawford, do we get a Canelo match? Most likely not. So the second fight is the trickiest, and the third fight depends on the outcome of Errol and Bud Crawford. The second fight, I feel like that second fight will be Benavidez in May for Cinco de Mayo. I'm sorry. I feel that's what I think would be happening in this 3-fight deal. Okay, best case scenario, if everything works out, the deal was supposed to be Jermall, Benavidez, Errol if he gets through Bud. If Errol loses to Bud, I don't know how that would work. You know what I mean? Maybe Morrell. Morrell is another PBC fighter. Morrell is a WBA. I don't know how long Canelo would be able to hold off defending those mandatory titles. WBC at some point, they got to order the fight. WBA at some point, they got to order the fight. But you know how money goes. You can't really say that that's going to be a thing that might happen. You know, I don't really know what's up with the belts. They order certain fights. Sometimes they don't order fights. Sometimes you have guys like Leo Santa Cruz holding belts for a long time. Jermall has held his WBC strap for 2 years. You know what I mean? So that third option is up there. All right. This is why I never believed that the David Benavidez and Morrell fight would happen. I think David Benavidez would probably want to, in a perfect world, Canelo should fight the winner of those two. And I'm talking about Morrell and Benavidez, since they're both, you know what I'm saying, like basically right in the front lines of getting a title shot. But that doesn't always happen. You know what I mean? Look at 147. I feel like Boots and Ortiz should be fighting each other in order to get a title shot. Ortiz is going to fight Stan Jonas, but you know how it works. I feel like it should be like a tournament thing when you have so many fighters. All right, but if Jermall isn't ready, then put Jamel there, who is ready. Jamel is smaller. Now, when I say smaller, I see a lot of you guys leaving comments about Jamel and him, putting up pictures of them standing. Yeah, we know that Jamel, everybody's taller than Canelo. Everyone that faces Canelo is taller. But Canelo is solid. His neck is this wide. If you ever see him, you look that he's a stocky guy. He's just short. You know what I mean? He's a stocky dude, though. He's wide. You know what I mean? Like he's not a small guy. You know what I mean? So with that being said, Jamel, even though Jamel might come in looking bigger in the ring that night, Jamel has never fought above 154. You know what I mean? You're fighting a guy that has been fighting at that division for the past few years now. He's gone up and even fought at 175. He's fought Bivol. He's fought Plant. He's fought Billy Joe. He's fought Golovkin 3 times. You know what I mean? He's fought Callum Smith. Huge dude. He's honestly even bigger than Bivol. Callum Smith is bigger than Bivol. He's fought some Chavez Jr. He's fought some really, really big guys. Kovalev, Danny Jacobs. He's fought some really, really big dudes. Much bigger than anyone that Jamel has faced. And that was my point. You guys keep saying, oh, well, they standing next to each other. No, I'm talking about the guy that's actually consistently fought guys much bigger than him. He's used to fighting guys bigger, and he's still taking them out. Whereas Jamel, a lot of his talent is based on his power. What I'm trying to say is, if the power is not a factor like it has been in other fights, and now he has to settle for actually outworking and outscoring Canelo in order to win the fight, that's when things become a little bit tricky. That's why I'm not sure if I really like the fight. So, like I was saying earlier, I went back and I started watching a little bit, and Canelo takes a lot of breaks. One thing, and I've said this yesterday, strong advantage with Charlo, good conditioning, not a pressure fighter, all right, but he's active all fight long. Whatever Charlo you get early, you're going to get late. You know what I mean? The power is a factor, but the speed is the factor. One thing watching that Castano fight last night, I was like, not for nothing, I think I watched a little bit of Canelo, and then I went to the Castano Jamel fight, and I saw the differences in speed, smaller guys. One thing about Jamel is, being that he's going up to 168, hopefully this boost jump in weight doesn't slow him down dramatically, because that is a big deal. One thing I do like about Jamel too is his lateral movement. Canelo always kind of struggled against movers. He's gotten better over the years. When he fought Plant, this is a guy that had already been in there with Lara and a whole bunch of other guys that try to move against him. You know what I mean? He's always been good at cutting guys off and chopping them down. You know what I mean? But Jamel is good because he's explosive. The combinations, the jab. You know what I mean? These are certain things that could give Canelo trouble. And then even if the fight is very competitive going into the second half, if Jamel doesn't get tired himself, because now you got to remember he's fighting at a higher weight class. If he doesn't get tired and burnt out himself, he can possibly outwork Canelo, who's burnt out in the last few fights. Didn't burn out against Plant, but he burned out against Bivol. I think a lot of that had to do with him just being outworked by Bivol, the bigger guy. But he burnt out in the Triple G trilogy, and he burnt out in the John Ryder fight. You know what I mean? So with that being said, it's not a bad fight. It's probably a better fight for Canelo than Jermall right now. Jermall at his very best, to me, in my opinion, will still be the harder fight for Canelo, in my opinion, at his very best. Simply because he's bigger. I think he has the better jab of the two. And he also bring that power. I think Jamel is quicker, a better mover, okay, for sure. A little bit more agile and stuff. But I think Jermall has a better jab. I think he has he's the bigger guy, naturally bigger guy. You know what I mean? Another thing is, too, when it comes to Canelo, you got to think about him closing the gap between the two. Much better inside fighter than Jamel is. Much better. That's a strong advantage for Canelo. And if he's going to be walking and stalking Charlo, which I expect him to, because he pretty much does it to everybody, even though Charlo could move well and, he could fight on the back foot and stuff, you never had that pressure for a guy that good, that talented guy that has that size. Castano, in my opinion, is the best person that Charlo has faced. All right. He's fought some really, really good fighters. I think Tony Harrison is a very good fighter. I would have Castano beaten. I said this back then. I said this before the first Castano fight. I thought Castano would beat Tony Harrison. Just my opinion. He fought some other guys too. He fought Gabe Rosado back in the day. He fought, who else did he fight? He fought Erickson Lubin. Can't even tell you how that fight. Erickson Lubin is phenomenal to me. Super talented. And I think he would beat Tony too. But a bit chinny. And at the time, he might have been a little too green. Thought it was a mistake to put him in there with Charlo at that time. But anyway, Charlo, it's not a bad fight. It's not quite the fight I'm looking for. I did want the Benavidez fight. But if the 3-fight plan includes Benavidez, whether he's second or third, I have no problem with this fight. All right? I don't have a serious problem with the fight. There's other fights I want more. Of course, my reaction yesterday is that I really didn't like it because it really didn't make sense to me at the time. You know what I mean? But if there's a 3-fight deal and if I just swap the Charlos real quick and say, you know what? These are my views before I found out it was Jamel. My views were if Jermall was going to be first and Benavidez is going to be second or Spence will be third, I'm cool with this package. I'm good with that. Or if you swap Morrell, throw him in a mix, I'm great with that. If you swap Jermall with Jamel, and Jamel is the better fighter right now, even though he's a little smaller, this is actually a better fight than the Jermall fight. Of course, there's still other fights I wanted. Benavidez, Morrell, even Demetrius Andrade. I know Jamel is more accomplished than these guys, but he is coming up. He's coming up in weight. And I read your comments. You guys say, why are people mad? I don't think people were directing it towards me because, I know people leave comments and react to other comments. But a lot of people were saying, well, Jamel's been calling him out. What's the problem if Jamel's calling him out? The problem is everybody calls out Canelo. Everybody wants the Canelo fight. You know what I mean? So it's up to Canelo. But if this 3-fight package, if Al says, hey, I'm going to give you $100 million and I want you to fight these 3 guys of our choosing, Canelo's there for the bag. This is not a legacy fight for Canelo. Canelo's for the bag in this deal. Jamel, for the other hand, it's a lot for him. I said yesterday, I'm happy for him for getting the opportunity. He's going to get paid probably his best purse ever. But he has a shot at becoming a 2-division champion. I'll tell you that I don't think it's a mismatch I still think Canelo should be the favorite to win, though. But there's that chance and possibility that Jamel, if he can come in there and show up that night looking full at 168, still being strong and quick, and he can keep that work rate up like he normally do, Canelo will have a tough night. But if Jamel looks like 168, to fight at 168 for your first fight at this level is too much. You know, we see the difference. He looks slower, or he's starting to gas, and maybe the punching, the power is not carrying up like it was at 154 against a guy with a phenomenal chin in Canelo Alvarez. He might have a long night. If Canelo was still stalking you in the championship rounds, if it goes there, that might be a problem. You know what I mean? But I like Jamel. And looking at the Triple G third fight, again, Triple G looks stiff compared to Jamel in the Castano rematch. You know what I mean? I like the quick check left hooks from Jamel. I like the combinations. I don't feel as bad after watching some of the fights yesterday. I don't feel as bad. All right, but it's a great opportunity for him. All right, Canelo's there for the bag. He's there for the money. He's there. He's doing what he wants to do, and I can't judge him because I don't think he went there and asked for Jamel Charlo. No one's been asking for the fight. I think that was the fight that was presented to him, and that's the fight that he's going to take. All right? So those are my thoughts on that. I'm sure we'll be talking more about it. I just wanted to close it out and give you my thoughts today after, being able to sleep on it and stuff. And that's that. All right? So, look, I will be here today to cover both cards, the Franchon Cruz Savannah Marshall fight, and also the Jared Anderson Charles Martin fight later on tonight. All right. So I'll be up. You guys will see the notification. I will be probably on live maybe around 3:30 this afternoon, and I will be on later on this evening for Jared Anderson. All right. So anyway, again, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, hit that thumbs up for me on the way out, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.